following show may shock, disturb, and offend some viewers. The opinions, theories, and facts shared on this podcast are not widely accepted by the brainwashed masses, especially those who find dark humor offensive. Viewer discretion is advised.
Jeffrey Dahmer soaked in blood. The Unabomber blowing up. Waco, Texas, and Heaven's Gates. Aliens modified, meant for apes. JFK shot in the head by the CIA. Bigfoot and the Mothman. Son of Sam talking to dogs again. Witches, ghosts, and goblins. Mysterious noise and hauntings. Dark arts in the skull and bones. Most celebrities are probably cloned. So if you're feeling all alone, crack a beer and get stoned. I welcome you to the podcast Strange Brew. We're here to entertain you. We're here to entertain you.
It's about to get strange.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. Welcome back. I'm your host, Tomcat, aka Tom Thompson. I'm very excited for this episode. It's kind of like a second part. I have Dustin Nemos joining us, and I heard you guys. I had some fans bitch at me because I never liked the interview process. I almost I wanted to have conversations, have back and forth with people, but the fans want to hear more from the guests. I heard you guys, so I'm aware, and I heard your feedback, so I'm gonna try my best to really let the floor be for the guests and stuff like that, and let them get out their thoughts whenever we have interesting guests on. Sometimes I'm trying to let the guests get to know me and who I am and stuff like that, so we can kind of bond over like a mutual thoughts of questioning the world that we live in and stuff like that. So welcome back, sir. If you want to introduce yourself again for the fans that didn't catch the first one.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. And frankly, like, some questions help me to like keep from digressing or going on a rant, losing my train of thought. I'm Dustin Nemos of DustinNemos.com and all of my other websites. And I've been a reporter and a journalist since 2017, a truther all my life, trying to save people from what they're doing to us and like who they are. Now that we know who they are, we've started to notice. And recently, I'm saying a bunch of things that are fastly becoming illegal in the Jew world order. But they're all true, and none of them are violent. And most of them, in fact, are in God's word, which is now anti-Semitic. If you say Christ is king in Canada, you could get life in prison. So, of course, the things that I say will be my own words. I don't want to get anybody in trouble except me. I'm ready for that. But these things need to be known. And frankly, we're out of time. So I've sort of moved out of just being a reporter and into what I call theopolitics. Everything connects back to the Bible. Every conspiracy that you've ever heard of or ever will hear of throughout all of human history is them. Every organized evil, every single time, is them. And God, in fact, told us the entire time that it was them and predicted that they would be our deep state and judges too. So there's really a lot to unpack, but like, you kind of gave me the floor and told me I could talk about everything or anything I wanted to. And like, what's the most important things? And there's a lot of them. We don't have a lot of time. And I would have to say God is real. Like, look at biblical Earth or the stuff that debunks evolution, or pretty much any of the sciences confirm God. I apologize about the rain. And I may cough tonight because I've been coughing up blood today. I'm on my 4th day of congestion from like the death fog that they're spraying Florida with. And like, there's fires going, 1,000-acre fire just over the horizon. Like, we're in the end at this point, but
it seems like
God is good.
Yeah, it seems like they're really pushing. I just want to say, like, for all the people that see or hear this and stuff like that, this show is supposed to be take nothing seriously. It is always has been started and structured as a comedy show. So at the end of the day, if people are offended or triggered by some of the words said today, this was not from either my mouth. But the thing is, I'm a person that believes in taking nothing seriously, question everything. And if you're not laughing, you're crying. So people need to kind of try to find some solace in all of this stuff and humor. And, I don't necessarily know if I believe you that this stuff is coming to an end, but I do believe that the serpent is starting to strangle the earth in a real way. And if people don't notice it by now, I think that people have been so programmed that they don't realize what's being done to them. But like, I don't know what you want to do. If you want to take it back to like how you think all this stuff started, like at least biblically in ancient times, and then kind of like if you have any idea of that of kind of going forward of how we got to where we are, like if that kind of makes sense. 'Cause I know you have a lot of knowledge about these biblical prophecies, so I really want you to take over. And I do have a beer or two on the show sometimes. This is fucking weird. It's a chocolate stout.
You might need it tonight.
Yeah, it's a mint chocolate stout, and I was like,
that sounds kind of weird.
It's very weird. That Canada drinks weird beer.
Some things just don't go with chocolate. Like I love honey, I love chocolate. They go with everything, but they don't go together. It's very weird, man.
Like there's a company called Flying Monkeys in Canada, and they do a good job at like creating very interesting beers, and it's just interesting to try because you're like, don't know if I like it. There's like so many beers like that, but they try to add all these weird flavors. But yeah, take it away, man. I'm excited for this, and we'll let's get right to it.
All right, so I'm gonna kind of recap a couple big bullet points of history. It's gonna refer back to the Bible. I'm just gonna paraphrase and disclaimer that the Bible is true. It's not just a religious text like all the other religious texts or some sort of epic poetry that aren't really literal. They're not history. They're not factual for the most part, although they reference some things that were real. And the Bible is not that. It is a collection, a codex, a library of historical witnesses that all which check out to be true when tested with the historic investigative method that historians use and rely on. And in fact, we have tons of evidence, and even atheists agree with at least the experts and the historians and expert like biblical scholars among the atheist world that say Jesus was real. Some people today think he even wasn't real. So like there's actually a ton of evidence that the Bible was real, but were the prophecies real? Yes, I've actually looked into it as a lifelong former atheist who was not a big fan of religion. I was raised in public school. I thought, religion was to blame for all of our ills, etc. So like I tested which God is real by figuring out the prophecies and the accuracy of their texts. And only one God says basically, and I forget the verse and I'm paraphrasing from memory, but show me your ability to predict the future, or see the past or show what was, and he's challenging all the other gods to basically show us what you got, and they got nothing. So the only God that has all the power, including to predict the future every single time accurately, is the God of the Bible, which, yes, they changed some things. They put the word Jew in 1400 years after Jesus, not a Jew. And they took Yahweh, God's name, out almost 7,000 times. They've done some things, but the Bible is true. The prophecies, the foreknowledge of scientific, advanced things that we're still just beginning to understand.
I have family members that are Christian, and they don't want to acknowledge, like they still think they're the chosen people. And then I've tried to show them like, hey, this is what they're doing. Like, here's some evidence and proof. It's sad. The Zionist Christians to me are like,
yeah, at this point, I basically think it's God's will that certain people are deceived, and we should try to wake them up. And because there are people out there who are lost and looking for truth, and that's basically where the fight truly is. But it's going to be a remnant. We're not going to get everyone, and there's basically a great delusion or a great deception that Yahweh himself puts on people when they don't love truth or him, or for whatever sins they've committed. They don't deserve it. He's not going to let them find it. This is why I think in the conspiracy world, and we've all probably felt this at least once in our lives, you can go to someone who absolutely is an intelligent person. They normally understand that 2 + 2 is 4, and you give them facts and conspiracy evidences beyond what you would need to prove in a court of law, if they would ever let it get to a court of law, and they will still not change their mind or even consider your perspective, and they'll just think that you're crazy or whatever, even get angry about it. You can't reach certain people, at least not all the time. Maybe at certain times in their life they could be reached, maybe low points and such. Like I believe that pain kind of opens that up a little bit when we see evil. But he tests us, he gives us a chance. Not everybody gets to that point. But anyway, so all of that said,
I got one question before you get into this stuff.
Okay.
Because like I want to kind of understand. I want to try to understand, right? And I'm not going to try to interrupt too much, but like so.
Go for it.
I think this stuff. I've always believed that it could be a benevolent, a God that would be loving. Like that, how I would perceive God is like the God that I would believe in would be one that is loving and caring and cares for all of humanity and wants us to kind of do better. But Do you think so? In your point of view, and I'll let you really get into this. So there's the one ultimate God, the benevolent force that is
Creator.
The creator, right?
Yeah.
But then there's also these lower tier, higher vibrational, or maybe lower in some cases,
Elohim.
entities that are pretending. Yeah, I would love you getting all the Elohim stuff. So they're like pretending to be gods and deceive us. Like that's.
So there are gods in the sense of the pagan faiths. They had entities, supernatural entities that were teaching them things. And in certain cases, yes, like things like giants, all that stuff was real. I'm kind of skipping ahead to the points a little bit here, but like basically all of the pagan faiths are a babbled version of the book of Genesis, and giants are real. They worship them. We call them cannibal demon monsters of the fallen angels. And they call the fallen angel wisdom serpents and bringers of civilization, like the Prometheus figure. We call them fallen angels. Well, yes, and they were imprisoned until about the 1900s, when roughly Roswell, as per prophecy, said they would be released for their crimes of creating the Jews.
It's like some Hercules shit. It sounds weird, but that's like reminds me of that, like even that Disney cartoon where they all get released and he has to battle them and stuff like that.
And this is why they edify or glorify things like Hercules, X-Men, etc., especially like the Apollo Hercules type myths. But even just the mutant, the mix, this, you know, the changed species, the you shall be as gods, you know, there are a million variations of this thing, but you know, everything from Superman, X-Men movies, Spider-Man. Batman's cool. He's human. He's just smart and does kung fu. But the rest of them are basically Nephilim monsters, or all flesh was corrupted, which was why the flood happened. And by the way, when all flesh was corrupted and the flood happened, Noah was safe because he was pure in his generations. That means genetics in the Bible talk. So we have a pure blood saved because everybody else became GMO genetics and Jewish, essentially. Nephilim. Now. Yeah, as again, just like Jesus himself, Yeshua warned us, as in the days of Noah, the end would be. We're getting very close to the end now. In fact, the last couple of years. That's why the son of perdition walks the earth. That's why the mark of the beast has already been rolled out in part. That's why specific prophecies are, you know, basically playing red alert all around us. I have the End Times Mapping Project post at my archive of hidden history, the Serapeum, which goes through every prophecy. In fact, why they were accurate through history. Like I've got a post on that. You can go through there and like build your faith in prophecy a bit there. That's where I determined which God had all the power. But
one day I'd like to get on to maybe screen share that stuff and break it down, because that would be maybe on a live thing, because that would be interesting. And we're getting more and more people on Rumble, so like they would probably find that fascinating.
I will try. Let me see if I can even screen share, because almost always this thing won't let me do it for whatever reason. I'm going to try real fast.
See, and that's what I've always like. I find what you say
Zoom or something.
I keep joking to my wife that like she's not religious, but she's spiritual. But I say that like, you know, I was like, you know, there's one night I was drunk and I was like, I found Jesus, and she's like, because I was looking into all this stuff, and it like was like kind of like, I don't know, concerning me a bit about what is going on and how I have a really close friend. Two close friends. One's a Jehovah, which is kind of an offshoot, different kind of. But I saw it pop up.
It won't let me. I tried twice. It drops immediately. If we do a Zoom or something, I can show you like wonders. But
okay, we can try that next time. We can try that. We can definitely try that next time, even for a live stream. But like, I have close friends that are Christians, and like, you know, like even recently, my buddy got this nice huge cabin for free. Like it's really nice. So to keep all his like his booze, and he drinks a little too much. We all kind of do, but like he collects it. He's trying to quit, but he has like literally a wall full of all the stuff he's collected. He's actually been able to keep that at bay, not touch these expensive liquors and stuff like that. And I was like, that thing's awesome. And he's like, you don't understand how how prayer works. He was like, I prayed for this. I prayed for something like this, and then all of a sudden he got for free something that would normally in Canada probably be, I don't know, thousands of dollars for this cabinet. So like, and I'm like, we talking about all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, you know, I'm on the fence, because I'm just trying to find what I truly think and believe and what is really real, you know?
Prayer seems to be a superpower that unlocks after you have such faith that, I mean,
it definitely does.
You already have the relationship. I've seen prayer fulfilled numerous times in my life. I can give you examples if you like, but and I mean specific things within minutes. Like, it's really cool. I believe Yahweh loves me, but essentially, like, prophecy is history before it happened, written down, that we can cite and point
So
to.
like 1 and 2 and stuff.
Yeah, we can absolutely prove that prophecy, and specifically like big things, like even atheists are like, how could that happen? That had to have been written afterwards, like Daniel, the prophecies of Daniel, of the future secession of different empires and such. Like, everybody knows the golden-headed statue, the iron feet, all that stuff. The rock, Yeshua, Jesus destroys that whole empire, etc. Those kind of prophecies came true specifically, very accurately, and atheist scholars deny it still, even after the Dead Sea Scrolls and other discoveries prove it was written when we said it was written, before it happened. And that's how Yahweh, God, the creator, works every single time he shows off. They say science killed God with Nietzsche, the philosopher. I've read it, not impressed. I say Yahweh laughs at them using science, because every science confirms God, no matter where you want to go with it. Genetics, archaeology, etymology, cosmology. That's one of my favorites. We can go into the shape of the earth and the age. It's not what they say. Don't believe NASA. Yeah. But in terms of like where it began, if you want to go from the beginning, and people ask me, where do you start reading the Bible? In the book of Genesis, in the beginning. And I used to think when I was a child that it was like so-and-so begat so-and-so. This is boring. What? Of course. And then most of my life, I was like anti-religion atheist. But then I found out the truth, and I realized this is the most epic action novel of all time.
How'd that happen? Like, what switched the light bulb in your head to be like, because I was raised Christian. Yeah. I went to Sunday school, and it bored the shit. I mean, my brother would go up into what I don't even know what it's called because it's been so long, but when the preacher's up there and he's talking, and I would just be in the basement. That's where they kept the Sunday school. And like my brother would sit there with my parents. He was only slightly older than me, but I just found it so boring. I couldn't like, because I've always had an open mind and very creative and artistic. I create music and art and like.
Did I lose you?
No, it should be good.
Okay. Sorry, I'm on Sadaloon, and then there's that storm that's coming in and out. Okay, so in terms of like, this is subjective. Everybody's got a different thing. I'm kind of a nerd. I think like megalithic structures and cone-headed giant bones all over the world were kind of cool, and I think a lot of different things are cool. I mean, I even kind of nerd out on like genetic archaeology studies and such. But in terms of what people typically think are cool, like Game of Thrones is pretty popular, right? I don't know if you like that. Game of Thrones it's based on the Bible, except again they invert things. And the White Walker King that comes on the horse with the army of the dead, which is Jesus Christ, by the way, at the end of the Bible.
That in Lord of the Rings too.
Well, yeah, they have it in Lord of the Rings. They steal a lot of concepts and even symbolism directly from Nimrod and the Bible, etc. So like this is not just the story in all the the Bible. It's the story in every mythology on earth, which is a babbled worship of Nimrod or Baal or Moloch or Marduk or Chemosh or Osiris or Apollo, etc. The man of many names, same story. They all talk about the flood. They all worship the same symbols. Same guy. Yeah. His wife is the woman of many names: Semiramis, Athena, Ishtar, Isis. So many. That's where we get Easter from. Same child sacrifice death cult. She was a transgender, incestual whore who married her son and begat a little demon child named Tammuz in the ancient world. This is the ancient trinity that became the dying and resurrecting sun god theme of most of the mythologies, not to be confused with Jesus, the dying and resurrected son of God. But
that energy is still here.
Yeah. I mean, that's what's running everything from, the Catholic Church to the secret societies to the Jewish New World Order, the Jew World Order, in my opinion, etc. I can point to the symbolisms of all of those and how it all goes. Like a Freemason, 6-pointed star, Jew, 6-pointed star, Khazaria, 6-pointed star. 6-pointed star means it means multiple things. Star of Remphan, worship of the stars, fallen stars. It also means 666 symbolically. And if you take the triangles and separate them, regular triangle, inverted triangle, you get the phallic symbol of the male and the cervix of the female.
Yeah, that came up on something we covered.
You get the sexual union of the Nephilim. And if you just take the Freemason symbol, it's a 6-pointed star. They dropped the horizontal bars. So you get the square and the compass. They they artistically style it. They put a G in the center, which means gnosis of the generation, knowledge of the genetics. They worship the Jews, and the Jews run the world because they're children of Satan.
Yeah, I've heard about the Freemasons being controlled by them. A lot of people have pointed to this stuff, right? Like I told you, I was a big fan of David Icke, and like he may not believe in the idea of religion and all that stuff, but he is someone that woke me up to this stuff because he was like very aware of what was going on, like at least the bloodlines and these interbreedings and like I want you to carry on with whatever you think is important, but like these bloodlines you believe are like the 13 Illuminati bloodlines that even Fritz Springmeier, even though he's probably Jewish, talked about. Do you believe that is that a real thing that they've passed down these genetics, like the Queen and all that stuff?
I mean, yes and no. There's like what the Bible would call the Dukes of Edom and Amalek, and like there's the royalty types of their race, like the Rothschild family, etc. They definitely have their like rulers and elites, but it's the entire race as per the Bible. I mean, at the beginning of, in fact, this kind of leads into where we're going. So 4,000, this is where I was going to start. 4,000 BC, roughly, in the beginning, roughly, like right after the beginning, right after the fall of Adam and Eve, Genesis 3:15, God said that there would be war or enmity, hatred, loxism between the seed of the serpent, that's them, and the seed of the woman, that's us. Now, David Icke calls them like reptile people.
I was going to ask you, do you think that
lizard
people see them? People see them. I've seen shadow people, man. Like
well, demons are real. Lizard people are basically just a good metaphor for Jews, and Jews don't look like lizards. They don't shapeshift for the most part, but they are genetically not human.
Like, point out David Icke could be like, you're just talking about this. And
if you test a frog, it comes out Ashkenazi genetically. So there's a lot of evidence to support that. In fact, they're not human. They're more of the Neanderthal, Nephilim, Homo capensis. They're not like us. There's a lot of genetics to prove that. But let's get into the biblical side, because it's way more fun to explain like the truth and then prove it later if people really want to go question a specific point, because I get a lot more covered that way. So this is 6,000 years ago, roughly, right at the beginning, right after the fall, the curse of the serpent, basically the first curse and prophecy of the Bible. 5,000 years ago, 1,000 years or so after that, roughly, this is around 3,500 BC, all flesh became corrupted, and Noah was saved for his pure blood genetics. This is the flood, which is worldwide. It killed all flesh except for the 8 people on that ship. We can prove it genetically, archaeologically, a number of ways. 3,500 years ago, roughly, God, Yahweh, told Joshua to, quote, leave nothing alive, end quote, of the surviving. I have a question about that, though.
Yeah. Where did all the souls go? Like, why would God do that to humanity? Like, I get parts of why he would, but like, why, first of all, where did all the souls go that were maybe just like normal people like you see today? Like, I think like even people in the LGBT community, some of those people are just being corrupted so much that like, where do they go? Do they have a spot? Do they have love for them, or do they?
If you are a homosexual or a murderer or a, various persons of sin, there's one unforgivable sin, but for the most part, you can repent of your sin and you can turn to the right way and stop the sin and continue to follow the right way, which is his law forever, and then not do it anymore, etc., and get into heaven, essentially, or become saved and, inherit the new earth with New Jerusalem, technically. But people just think getting into heaven. Okay,
well, do you believe in hell? Because there's like contradictions. You do?
Well, yeah. Okay. And there were to answer your question, there were no humans left. Noah and his family, the 3 sons and the wife and Noah, those 5 people were the last humans on earth. Of the rest of all of those people, presumably millions and millions at least of people in the age of Atlantis, Tartaria, they were all Jewish. They were all 30-foot Jews, or roughly, or some other mixture of species.
It's just interesting because the hell is not really mentioned that much within the Bible. Like there's this theory of the underground and stuff like that, and like underworld, but I never heard like references to like.
So there's things like your worm will never die. It talks about Sheol, which is where a human soul goes when we die. And Sheol is in the hollow earth, and that's true. But Hell is below that, and the Bible in certain places talks about, especially in like the Greek scriptures, in the Greek version, actually they differentiate between hell, Hades, and Tartarus, which is more like a deeper level of hell reserved for the fallen angels. So there's actually like layers to this thing. Even
do you think you can escape hell?
No, actually there's, well, yes and no. There's a key. The key is given to the enemy for a time. The beast that was and is not and yet will be becomes the end times enemy of the Christians, the king of the Jew world order that tries to persecute and kill all the one that brings about the great tribulation with the mark of the beast, basically persecutes believers. I think it's Trump, but essentially that spirit comes back from hell. That's the spirit of Nimrod, and it has to come back in order to fulfill prophecy of the dying and resurrecting sun god, of all the pagan myths fulfilled, kinda, because this is the Christian Antichrist, the son of perdition, the man of sin, a beast, the first beast. Of course, there's a second beast.
I told you, a guy that thinks that Trump's the Antichrist. He's also a Christian.
It's coming. Well, we're catching on now. I was one of the first to say it, but
I'm sure you were actually.
Fortunately, it's catching on now. Well, I got some killer infographics. It's pretty hard to deny it when you see it for yourself. Like 80% of the verses checked off. Like Trump would.
He did this whole presentation, and it was pretty convincing. Not gonna lie.
It's rough. I mean, we're in a really bad time right now, and Trump has an anti-Semitic task force rounding up tens of thousands of people for even daring to protest or even write op-eds in their school newspaper about don't bomb the babies, essentially. He's calling you a Hamas sympathizer, Hezbollah sympathizer, terrorist, or October 7th Holocaust denier, etc. Even in the U.S., free speech is on its deathbed. It's hanging on by a thread, and I'm doing the best I can to represent people in your country and in other countries like Ireland, like the UK, where there
my
is no
co-host
free
is Irish. I told you that, and he's it's fucked there. It's getting. We just did.
Yeah, I got a little red. If you can tell, I got some Ireland in me too,
dude. Yeah, so do I actually, which is weird. Yeah, I've definitely red in my beard. There's my grandma thinks we were like German, Irish, and definitely English is in my blood.
We may be family.
Yeah, which is crazy. And the thing is, like, we just did the clergy plan, and then we did a second part about the melting pot scam, and like. Afterwards, we did 3 hours on the clergy plan, and then essentially it was like a second part to do the melting pot scam, which will be out by the time this is out on audio. We did it live, and the audio comes out later, or whatever. But yeah, it gets depressing because I'm like, what's happening in Ireland can't everywhere, right? It's just
why are there brown people that don't speak English all over white nations raping white women, and white people go to jail for even protesting about it on free, or even sharing something that someone tweets about it online. And why is Snow White gone? Why is Snow White brown?
Yeah,
it's because the clergy plan. The Jews want to kill all whites, and they actually said, clergy said, one of the EU founding fathers, that they wanted to basically mix and enslave everybody else.
Yeah.
He wanted to enslave the Asians and Negroes, is what he said, and I forget the.
He wanted to make a Eurasian Negroid race, is what he said. It's so crazy.
About the Europeans, yeah. And that's basically where we're at. They have gotten close to their plan. The fertile, non-vaxxed, breeding age white women are less than 1.5% of the world population. We're going extinct, and the remnant will be saved, who keep the faith and the way, as Revelation says repeatedly. We are, hanging on in faith, basically. But in terms of like history and covering some grounds, I mean. So 3,500 years ago, Yahweh, the creator, told Joshua to leave nothing alive of these monsters. This is the Canaanites period of the Bible. They're known under many names, but they come from Noah, Ham, the bad son, Canaan. So it's a grandson of Noah, a weird kid, 6 fingers, cone head, giant, just like all of his children, just like all of those tribes are described, like Goliath, for example. They were monsters. You can make a giant today. I realize it's weird for skeptics. Look up ligers. They never stop growing. If they ever escape, it will become a Genesis 6 problem.
My buddy's obsessed with the homunculus. Does this have to do with it? Because he essentially made his whole research into the homunculus and creating these creatures that you can use with occult magic. Also, the Coneheads movie, did that have something to do with them just kind of showing you?
They're mocking us. Double rows of teeth, Coneheads from outer space.
Yeah, weird.
Yeah, and there's no space. Aliens are not aliens; they're fallen angels, just like before, and that's why they created space and lied to you about it, and don't want you to believe in God. They want to drag us to hell. So anyway, fast forward a little bit, and I mentioned Canaanites. So some of those tribes, Archavites, Hivites, Sinites, Hittites, etc., like they had many names. They spread out. 3,000 years ago, 500 years later, Yahweh, the creator who has all the actual evidence to support him, the one who challenges all the other gods, show us what you got nothing. That creator of the Bible, the one who sent his son to die for us because he loved us so much, replaced King Saul with King David, the giant killer, because King Saul refused to leave nothing alive. So this faithful boy was replaced this king because this king refused to kill all of them. 2,000 years ago, Christ came, telling us that there were demon tares amidst the wheat, not Israelite men, but infiltrators, teaching the Talmud instead of the Torah. They had him put to death for hate speech, essentially. And they used Roman cops of multicultural Rome just following orders to do so as they laughed and tortured him. But he told us in John 8:33 and 4:4, or 2:44, for example, that they were infiltrators, not of the tribe of Israel, but of Abraham, but of their father, the devil. That means Edom, very simply, or Ishmael, but that wouldn't make any sense in the context. So those are the children of Abraham, but they were never enslaved in Egypt as the Israelites were, and they admitted it. So the Pharisees were of the tribe of Edom, and I can show you the switch happened under John Hyrcanus I, right before the time of Jesus. The tribe of Judah under the King John Hyrcanus I, the country of Judah, conquered the tribe of Edom, or in Greek, Idumea, and they merged, they became Judea. And then that multicultural tribe, two tribes together, the people of Jesus, of Judah, of the tribes of Israel, of the Bible, God's chosen people, and those who call themselves Jews and are not, but do lie, because now they're Judean, Idumeans. So you have multicultural Judeans. Now, a little bit later, fast forward, Herod, the Edomite Judean, tries to kill all the babies. He did kill many of the babies to stop Jesus, but he failed. Caiaphas, the Judean, killed Jesus using Roman cops and made up hate speech laws.
Where does like Pontius Pilate and then Judas come in? Because is that like I would like to, because I know like I read the Bible when I was very young. I've also read the Quran, but I was also very young. It's been like, I don't know, 17 years since I looked at any of that stuff.
Sure. Well, I mean, the Romans had a small part in this, essentially. Like the cops were Roman. They did the torture. They put him to death. But the entire instigation, the agenda, the motive, the plot throughout many of the chapters and witnesses of the New Testament, of the Pharisees and the Sadducees and all these different political groups, theopolitical groups, trying to take out Christ or set him up or get him killed or discredit him in some way, or give him, loaded questions to set him up with the law, like should we pay taxes to Caesar, or loaded questions to set him up with the people, like, which of the women, or which of the 7 sons get the wife if they all married her in heaven, etc. Those kind of gotcha questions, loaded questions, so that they could set him up. And of course, Christ, he was not the hippie that everybody perceived him as today, because he's been, in many people's eyes, weakened and thrown in the back of the bus with like Buddha and Gandhi, etc. But Christ, in fact,
Gandhi had sex with his cousin and fucking murdered his own wife, pretty much.
Well, Jesus was like he was a shredded carpenter who made his own whip to spank the Jews in the bank.
I heard about that. Yeah, where he sat there and he was like premeditated, like he was thinking about it while he was making the whip.
Yeah, he was probably took some time with that thing, made it like a good bull whip or something too. And he was a carpenter, so he had crafty hands. Yeah. Anyway, and the muscles to use it too. Anyway, he was flipping tables, and he had to have muscles to do that, especially when they're covered with gold. And by the way, he also mocked, baited, rebuked, ignored, baited, and debated, and ridiculed, and posed ridiculous questions to the Pharisees and the Sadducees, etc. He was not what many people today would consider Christ-like. He sought them out and sought conflict with them often. For example, when he took dirt from the soil and rubbed his spit in it and rubbed it over the blind man's eyes on Sabbath in order to heal him, he didn't need dirt to heal a man. Like, why would Jesus, the Son of God, need to use dirt to heal somebody? That doesn't make any sense. What he wanted to do was do something that was forbidden in the Talmud in front of the Pharisees on Sabbath and challenge them and basically piss them off right in front of everyone so that they would go and, he's working, he's healing on Sabbath, like Jews do when they get angry about something. So sorry. It's that locks.
I know. Say what you guys say, man. So Ben Shapiro's a demon for sure then.
For sure. That's why he wanted you to take the vax. That's why he says JFK being killed by the Jews is not a big deal. That's why he pushes edited video, or I'm sorry, images of a burnt baby, which was fake. It was actually from a dog in a vet, and then the AI changed it so that the dog became a burnt infant.
Wow.
All fake. The beheaded babies, all fake, while Jews are
for sure. And we can see what the real footage is. I've seen it all over X. It's very real.
Bombing babies every day. They target children, babies being held by their mother's breasts. They assassinate them. They take pictures of it. They put it on their t-shirts and brag about it on their chat rooms.
That's why I'm like, how far are we going to people are we going to allow this to go?
They're not the people of Abraham.
Yeah.
So during that time, right after Christ, Rome and its Jewish masters have done everything that they could to kill or corrupt every soul on earth, with over 50 million Christians martyred, often being burnt at the stake with their Bible tied around their neck for reading the Bible without a Roman priest or rabbi to guide them, Jesuit order, etc. Now it is our generation's turn for war with Amalek, as God told us. Who is Amalek? Well, they say it's us, the white people, or any of the babies that they're bombing at the time can be Amalek, because it's a term that they apply liberally to the enemies that they want to slaughter in a non-biblical interpretation. And the evidence, in my opinion, I might be the only one saying this in the world, but all of the evidence of who Amalek is, which, by the way, Amalek means the blood lickers. Amalek is the sort of the last incarnation of that Canaanite Nephilim bloodline in the end of the Bible. They're the bad guys that will become the deep state and oppress the West, etc. Anyway, Amalek, the blood lickers, who've been kicked out of 109 countries 1,034 plus times for eating babies and licking blood. Things like Tunnelgate in Brooklyn, Chabad, for example, where I just discovered today one of the rabbis in Brooklyn recently was convicted of like 28 something counts of child rape and got 2 months for it because he said they seduced him, 13, 12-year-olds. Wow. Yeah, the fire can't come fast enough. The end is nigh. But in terms of, if you haven't seen Tunnelgate, I mean, we saw tunnels, we saw video of rioting Jews in their own Chabad center, the most popular Chabad center in the country in Brooklyn, basically digging tunnels under the center to a child's bathroom at the under the street, across the street, at a child's bathroom at a children's museum. Yeah, and then they were also caught with like stained mattresses, PP
high chair,
adjustable high chairs for infants, PP pads that were used, bloody cloths, men's pants and shoes left in the rubble of the tunnel.
Nothing was done about it.
Nothing was done. The cop that investigated is called the rabbi by the local Jews. And wherever you see Jews gathered in terms of numbers, at least in the United States and pretty much everywhere throughout history, by the way, tunnels are dug, evil festers and boils over, children go missing, and these kind of things happen. And one example is, if I were able to share an image with you, it would be from my Tunnelgate article at thesarapayam.com, where it basically overlays about 12 or 15 different hot spots in the U.S. in terms of population. Where do Jews live? And then it shows you the heat zones of major human and child trafficking centers. Perfect match overlay.
I've heard that before too.
So, I've got all of that kind of data at my Tunnelgate post. This is something that happens again and again and again throughout history. It's not blood libel because it's not libel, because they were found guilty over 1,000 times. For examples like Saint Simon of Trent, Andrei Yushchenko, before the Bolshevik Revolution, had to kill tens of millions of Christians who found out about Andrei Yushchenko, etc. So
what is so I know about them obviously slaughtering mass amounts of Christians, but who's this guy? I haven't heard this before.
Which Andrei Yushchenko?
Yeah.
He was a little boy. I think he was 13, and he was one of the surviving children. He was one of the victims of and there were only, I think, one survivor at the end of this, because there were multiple children they tried to grab. Many of them got away, and they poisoned them later at trial, etc. So basically, this Andrei Yushchinsky was taken by a Jew, and it's very similar to the situation that the ADL was founded. With the
I shared a meme of that, and
except they lynched him, and he got away with it, and they lynched him. But in Russia, he got away with it, and everybody found out about this, child sacrifice because of the priest.
And that's a real thing, everybody. How the idea was found it's a real thing. Like, you can't dispute it. It's in the history books.
He raped a little girl, killed her, blamed it on a black guy, got out of jail.
The craziest thing is, not even the KKK wanted to lynch the guy that they were trying to frame.
Leo Frank. Well, that's what Jews are. They try to set black and white against each other. Of course, we're different, but like, we're not generally at each other's throat unless it's the Jews. Like, they brought them over here, 95% of the slavers, 95% of the ships, etc.
That is also a factual thing that you can easily find and look up.
And the Holocaust is fake too. And by the way,
I can't say that all 6 million people died. It is very real. People
should look up that famous Canadian court case of Ernst Zundel, I think his name was. It's a hard one to pronounce. It's all at theserapeum.com if you're still allowed to see it and talk about it. But this was decided in Canadian courts, incidentally, that there was no data to support the Holocaust. And, there's a ton of other data to support it.
There was the Red Cross. And like I said, everybody, I'm not saying anything.
I got you. Just go to the Serapeum and you got it, brother. I don't want to get you in trouble. They might give you life in prison or something in Canada because they're doing that now.
Yeah. This is just a comedy show, everybody. Remember that. This is just like, they're supposed to be laughing this whole time.
And in Guantanamo Bay and like the US, like, they're sending people like me to Guantanamo Bay now. So like, tens of thousands of noticers are being sent to Guantanamo Bay for noticing the Jewish power, saying don't bomb the babies, don't rape your prisoners to death, don't ethnically cleanse entire peoples, and etc. But there's a number of ways we could go with this, but like, aliens are the Genesis 6 fallen angels returned. They are out for revenge. They want to, where we go one, we go all. And that's basically the oath that they took when they decided to turn against God's plan and make monsters with human women in Genesis 6. They were imprisoned until Roswell. They were imprisoned until the 1900s, as per the prophecies of 1 Enoch, etc.
How did they hold them down, though? Like, was it some sort of like a occult magic, or like, how were they imprisoned? Like,
Yahweh threw them in chains of darkness under mighty rocks of jagged stone.
So who let them out? Was it like a ceremony,
Yahweh.
like almost a ritual?
Well, it was almost certainly, it's been connected to something that humans and Jews are doing together, like CERN, which is all about opening portals and such, or Aleister Crowley.
Oh yeah,
Aleister
he had
Crowley
contact with some weird alien. Yeah,
open portals. A little gray alien came out, called itself Lamb. He said that today they call them angels and demons. Tomorrow they'll call them something else. He's right. Yeah. Tomorrow they'll call them aliens. And
a guy go crazy.
X-Men. Well, that's kind of where we're at. That this is why everything has turned evil. This is why, like, the vampires and the werewolves are considered the good things in the kids' movies now, and they were the horrifying antichrist.
That's what I said. They keep doing that with Disney. Maleficent is now nice, and like, and then the Cruella de Vil. This is what they always do. It's like, this
sympathy
is why
for the
they're
devil.
Evil. They're explaining it. This is why they're evil.
Yeah.
Like, I tried to watch that it was just free or whatever. My wife popped it on, that Wicked movie, and I wanted to we got 20 minutes in or something like that, and I was like, I'm not watching this anymore. This is awful.
Incidentally, I enjoyed the play once upon a time when I was like a young person. I thought the play was kind of funny, but
we all enjoyed all those small little things. Like
this movie, I was a big theater buff. I mean, I wasn't like in theater like those crazy people that do theater, like, and enjoy it.
I always liked acting.
Those carnies, basically. Like, I was never good at like that kind of thing, and those people are like their own clique. But I enjoyed attending theater and like watching it, like live performance and such.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I've always been creative. So like, I don't like I've always thought I should be doing more, because that's why like I put out music and stuff like that. Much like I've seen that kind of you have done, which is like kind of awesome. I didn't know you were doing like that AI stuff is actually very interesting, because I use music and hip hop specifically. Like, I used to be in a metal band to express and try to wake people up within 3 minutes. I found with hip hop, you're able to convey more of a message, and so like I just released an album called The Great Resist, and it breaks down all this stuff. Like, one of the lines is the Mossad shot JFK with the help of the CIA. Like I could get into all that kind of stuff because I want to try to make
Nice.
people aware of what's kind of going on in the world. And that I did a song called Conspiracy Theory, and that was part 2 of like you can use music to get through to people. And I had someone comment recently and they're like, your music popped up at a time of my awakening, and I thank you for that. And I'm like, hearing that stuff like melts my heart, man. Wild. Man, it's so interesting. I don't know. Like, it's hard. I can't tell you my real, like, I don't know, man. He's very convincing. Like, I like him as a person. He seems very genuine about what he believes and what he thinks. So I really do thank him for coming on the show. He's an interesting character. Like, I liked Adam Green too. I like, as much as, they've debated and may not like each other or whatever like that. Like, Adam Green also seemed pretty genuine and caring about people and just wanting to expose the truth. And like I said, I'm not saying anything that he said is accurate or true. This show will always and forever will be a comedy show where you take nothing seriously and we're just here to ask questions. That's it. That's all it's ever going to be, is we're asking questions. There's nothing hateful or wrong or anti-Semitic or whatever other people want to throw labels on it for asking questions and just saying, that's a little weird. Why is that happening? Why is this happening? Why is this going on? Asking questions is, the foundation of trying to find the truth, right? So I found it really interesting. I would like to know your guys' thoughts. Like, I know now you can leave comments on Spotify. So if you see this or on Rumble or YouTube, so on YouTube, you only get essentially 45 minutes of the episode. So I'll keep this in so you guys know, like, support Rumble. It is a far superior platform to YouTube. You can get it on your PlayStation. You can get it on, especially like I have it on my Amazon stick. Like, you can watch it on your TV and have it casted to your TV and stuff like that. So, I thank everybody for listening. I thank you for being a fan of the show. I'm going to try my best with guests. I promise to let them talk and have the floor. Sometimes I'm just excited. I have so many questions in my head and want to get out what I think so I can see what they think about what I think, like, it's just kind of how I am. And I've always been a person who fills dead air, right? Like, even in my real life, if people aren't talking and it's dead silence, I'll try to bring up conversation because I don't like that, to just have dead silence and people awkwardly sitting there in real life or on a show or whatever. And obviously I started the show off with my friends, just getting drunk and hanging out. And if there was dead air, I would try to fill it. So I'm going to make sure that I'm more open to giving the guests more of the floor and really hearing their thoughts and opinions. But yeah, please, if you support the show. We're on Patreon. We're going to try to be working on stuff for that. I have a baby on the way and I'm going to be busy for a month or two or something like that. The show will still be coming out every week, especially on audio. There'll be some videos that I'll have saved up that will also go out. But your support of the show, without you guys and the fans of the show, there is no show. So I do really appreciate everybody that does tune in, that does share the show, especially on, platforms like YouTube, because we are shadow banned. There's no denying it. We're definitely shadow banned on platforms like YouTube, even on TikTok. I feel like the word Strange Brew Podcast is probably now shadow banned to some extent, and I've seen it happen. I can prove it. I've looked at the algorithm, because you can track how much trends it goes up for an hour, and then everything, it's just like deadpan silence afterwards. With a lot of the videos I've done, even on TikTok and stuff like that. Instagram is a little different. I'll probably come after that next, but I appreciate you guys' support. If you want to go find my music, it's on YouTube. Just look up The Reptilian. It'll be like, do you mean The Reptilian? It'll be like The Reptilian. Just click, I mean this. And also it's on Spotify and Apple Music and all that stuff. So your support of my music would also be greatly appreciated. Obviously, trying to work out the kinks of this green screen and the tearing down the studio, something that I had up for years now. Because Billy used to sit here with me as we do these shows. But yeah, interesting conversation. I don't know. I do think there's something dragging me towards that side of things with the people I know personally and the show and the conversations I've had and my own family. And I don't know, it's compelling to say the least. And And either way, who knows? I guess we'll find out what happens and where this future is leading us, because it definitely seems like the world is going to a very dark and disturbing place. It's quite clear that that's what's happening. If you don't see it, you're not paying attention. So yeah, support the show, Patreon, buy some merch. That'd be awesome too. It's it's cheap. We don't make a lot of money from it at all, but we want you to be able to rep it. We want you to be able to wear the shirts. I'll probably develop more in the next year, but you can get the main logo. You can get I've designed a couple of different fun shirts for people, especially the ones that really support the show. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you for listening. And yeah, share, like, comment, all that good stuff. It means the world to us. You have no idea. So thank you for tuning in.